On Sunday, Fox News host Maria Bartiromo confronted former President Donald Trump on his tariff plan.
About the criticism, and the Journal has done this as well, that if you do put something like a 200% tariff on a product, that it's only going to mean higher prices for consumers.
It's not that. No, it doesn't mean that.
It's got to be passed on somehow.
No. All I'm doing is saying, I'll put 200 or 500, I don't care. I'll put a number where they can't sell one car into the United. I don't want them to sell their car because I don't want them hurting our car companies. We're going to have a lot of companies moving into the United States. When I use 200, I'm using it as a number. I don't want their car. They will not be able to sell cars. I'm not going to let them build a factory right across the border and sell millions of cars into the United States and destroy Detroit further.
Well, I'm not going to let them sell cars in Detroit and destroy Detroit even further. Okay, so there are good areas of Detroit, nice areas, and then there are not so nice areas of Detroit. I've been to both. Nonetheless, let's get to the tariffs thing, right? So 200, 500, I don't really care. Well, I'm going to figure it out. Wait, hold on. You're basically going to make average people pay more for cars and other things. So what, that Mexico doesn't, or China doesn't sell cars here? That's the whole plan? No, the whole plan is a trade war with China. Again, we sell things to other countries. If you start putting tariffs on their goods, they're going to put tariffs on our goods, which means we're not going to be able to sell as much. So that's going to be a problem for us. That's kind of the issue of creating a trade war or starting a trade war. And so speaking of the tariffs and the cost to average people, it would be more costly. That's who pays the tariff. Average people who want to buy things that are imported, okay? In fact, the cost increase for the median family would be somewhere at least around $2,600 a year. Can you afford an extra $2,600 a year? I wouldn't think so. That's a tax hike, essentially, right? It's a tax without calling it a tax. And again, tariffs can be used strategically to try to force negotiations for better trade. Is Donald Trump trying to do that? No. He's just putting in these tariffs as part of protectionist policy, right? Now, that said, according to Douglas Holtz-Eakin, president of the center-right think tank, the American Action Forum, Trump's trade proposals would be equivalent to a $3 trillion tax hike. Yikes. He says, quote, "It's enormously protectionist and terrible economic policy." Yes, it is. And look, poor people would get hit the worst, the most. The losses, according to economic researchers Kimberly Clausing and Mary Lovely of the Peterson Institute, the losses are greatest for those at the bottom of the income distribution. That would not be lovely. That would be awful. Not only that, but those same researchers did say that one group would be unaffected, the top 1%. Because of course, right? The top 1% would actually experience net gains in income because losses from tariffs are more than offset by Donald Trump's proposed tax cuts. So here we have Donald Trump helping rich people and hurting poor people. Of course, that's the whole point. Now, as I mentioned, though, tariffs can make sense as protectionist policy or a way to get more favorable trade. In fact, Donald Trump put in some tariffs before, about $80 billion worth. Joe Biden kept most of them. He even increased them. Biden did $18 billion more in tariffs against China. But that is not without cost, okay? There is a cost, and the whole point of the tariff is, hey, let's do some protectionism and encourage industry to stay here or move back here, okay, instead of going overseas, which again can make sense, okay? And there's also, hey, let's get some better trade parity first, How about you start, buying more of our goods, and then we will relax the tariffs on you. Again, that kind of makes sense when you do it that way, right? Targeted tariffs. However, Trump He's like, just flat, tariffs across the board. Hold on. Now, as I mentioned, the cost, right? Now, the Trump imposed tariffs on imported solar panels, for example, steel and aluminum and Chinese-made goods have cost Americans more than $230 billion. Has it really changed China's economic model towards the United States? Not exactly. In fact, U.S. states more exposed to U.S. tariffs on imports from China experienced lower increases or even decreases in employment and output between 2018 and 2019, according to a study from St. Louis Federal Reserve economists. So you got to be careful when you're doing this and not get into a trade war. You have to be smart with tariffs, right? That's not what Donald Trump's doing. Flat tariffs across the board would be disastrous because this is not about getting a certain goal in mind. It is about avoiding doing anything to actually help struggling workers while also claiming we're going to punish other countries because it's their fault. No, it's not their fault. It's the corporation's fault, okay? Corporations aren't paying people enough, okay? Corporations aren't paying Americans enough to work and to buy their products, okay? And unfortunately, you have Chinese companies who pay workers so very little and exploit their workers, and then make cheap products, and then they get shipped over here because it's the only thing Americans can afford. So that's kind of the problem. We have a huge, huge issue of these corporations not investing in the American workforce because it's all about short-term profits. This is going to be solved, it can't be solved, I should say, without changing some very fundamental things about the current U.S. economy. Okay, tariffs are not going to do it. All right, and in fact, apparently, it's going to hurt average American workers far more than it might actually help. So again, if he wants to help workers, Trump or anybody, you could increase the minimum wage. You could do paid leave, things like that for families, support unions, labor rights. But that's not what Donald Trump does. Okay, he doesn't support any of those things. No, it's all about tariffs and tax cuts. And ironically, spending huge amounts of money in the form of a deportation force that would probably cost into the, I'm guessing, billions to do. Seriously. None of this is going to help average working class people who will end up paying more as a result of the tariffs, and yet do not and will not receive higher incomes, nor will they really benefit from his tax cuts. Once again, most American working class people do not make enough money to pay into federal taxes anyway. So once again, like the Trump tax cuts that we already had, you're going to see the vast majority of the benefit go to the very richest people. Now, the one thing that I also want to point out is Maria Bartiromo actually asking a decent question. Wow, holy crap, that's a first. Wow. Now that, of course, might have gotten the network in trouble, as Trump didn't actually go after Maria Bartiromo, but he did go and post to
Truth, essential.
just hours after the interview saying, quote, Fox News spends so much time interviewing the other side that we must win despite them. They want to be fair and balanced. They haven't used that in a long time, by the way. Just like CNN and MSDNC, conservatives want a real voice. The two new readers, AN and ES, on Now are terrible. AN and ES were likely references to co-anchors Arthur Neville and Eric Shawn. So it's just funny. AN and ES. Can't say their names? Apparently not. Now, here's the thing, though. During his sit-down with Bartiromo, Trump was given free rein to launch baseless personal attacks on Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. So, apparently, not good enough. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.